Great to see you now smiling after 96 hours in the hands of the Israeli Death Force or Israeli Occupation Force, as Flotilla calls IOF. Tell me about your experience having been abducted from your boat, Umut, in the international waters off the coast of Cyprus. Um, yeah, what did they do to you, the IOF? Speak low.
Starting with, thank you, Pozerny. What a privilege. I didn't think I would sit side by side with you.
Yeah,
MashaAllah.
we're just on the compound of La Sulamania. It's for a Muslim, during the month of like fasting, the auspicious occasion.
Absolutely. Today is Arafat. Yom al Arafat is the day of Hajj. And this is Sultan Mehmet uh, Tatebas conquered Istanbul. And inshallah, we shall conquer. Speak, please. Our place back in Arafat. So, and we shall conquer Gaza. So, my experience is nothing compared to the experience of the Palestinians, of course. But in the 96 hours that I was there, starting with the prison boat, I was given a welcome with punches, kicks to my groin, and tasers, got taser marks on my back. Uh, I suffered from severe pain in the head, from perhaps concussion. Not, I don't know if it's medically still concussion. I would have to go through all the tests, but no medication given, no water given, or very little water given. And I went through that ordeal for 96 hours, even though we requested for medication, basic medication, including my comrades, some of whom had broken ribs, broken arms, broken sternum, clavicle. Uh, People tased in their genitals, head wounds, someone bleeding from the ear, black eye. I had my side black for some time, uh, but it's healed by now, improved by now. Many people with broken nose, had it been a fraction of a second, would have landed on my nose. I would have had a broken nose. Uh, it was hell. It was hell in 96 hours. And the most surprising thing is, not surprising, it was expected, but I saw this firsthand. There is no rule that they were going by. The Israeli forces, that they call themselves as a military, an elite military amongst the best militaries in the world, disciplined, professional. No, none of that crap. They would pick, there are a bunch of thugs. If you have 5 people, take you to a dark room, beat you up, just beat you up, and maim you, not give you food, not give you water, and choose and pick who to beat, who not to beat. There were some white pretty boys who didn't get beat up that bad. There were some other people who were just let go. There were some others who were beaten up real bad. So all of that speaks of their quote unquote professionalism and discipline. But this is what we went through. This was only in the ship. You go to Ashdod, you go to the prison. There's experiences of its kind everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you served in the Canadian Armed Forces as a captain yourself, and the Israeli occupying force issued a statement, or actually Israeli prison department issued a statement saying that they treated all the prisoners, abductees, I call it. Most of us would call them abductees, humanitarians abducted in international waters. They said you were all treated according to the proper procedure. Did you by that Israeli Hasbara?
First of all, I served as a major from the last few years of my service. But thank you. It's not something that I embellish. come to the point of whether they treated us well, that is an absolute lie. You know, in our last, I'll just give you one example out of so many. In our last, right before getting on, when we arrived the airport, Ramon in Eilat, and we were getting back to, getting on, before getting on Turkish Airlines that came to take us. On that transport truck, the prison guards would deliberately drink water and show us, that they are drinking water, while we were thirsty for more than some of us for at least 48 hours.
48 hours, you were not given a drop of water.
No. We were given, in our prison cell, there was like a small container and like a cooler. And from the cooler, if there was coolers, in some cells there were no coolers, we had to share amongst like 30 people in each cell, some of us sleeping on the floor, like a sip of water, if there was any remaining. They didn't treat us like, they treated us like shit. They treated us in the worst possible. If one of us had spoken up, they would have not hesitated to beat us and break our bones right there and there. They would. I remember while getting into the sleeping cell, there was this one prison guard who was telling me there's this gigantic poster of Gaza in ruins, in total destruction, and right beside it was like a projector screen playing a video of graphic images of Palestinians with chopped limbs, with profusely bleeding and broken heads, like really graphic images of babies, and he was saying, this is Hamas, and this is what you would get for supporting Hamas. Another one giggled and said, Hamas is losing and we are winning. Like, that kind of thing is so inculcated in their heads that they would use this to such graphic images to even show off and reassure themselves, like as though they're not sure that they're winning, reassure themselves that they're winning, and give you a threat that this is what you would get for supporting Hamas. Forget about water and forget about treating us well.
Yeah, I think Ben Gvir, the national security minister, and other Israeli, senior officials portrayed unarmed humanitarians from around the world as Hamas supporters. You were portrayed in the Israeli media and in the Israeli narrative as Hamas supporters. I've spent some time in Ramallah with some of the high-profile Palestinian former prisoners, who spent years and months in Israeli prisons, known for widespread and institutionalized torture. And one of the prisoners, a former armed fighter, mentioned that he was given, he and his fellow prisoners were given 16 grams of really, cheap quality strawberry jam with a piece of bread. Yeah, if they behave, 16 grams of. That's why if they were treating international humanitarians coming from different countries, including Canada, which supports Israeli genocide. Right? I mean, Canada was sending munitions. Canadian Zionist Jews were, fighting, participating in the genocide. If Israeli forces were treating international humanitarian with such contempt and sadistic, sentiment, can you imagine what Palestinians in their hands, thousands of them, in these prisons or so-called prisons, really torture centers like rape and all that. Do you have any colleagues that experienced sexual violence on your prison boat?
There were 12 reported cases of sexual violations. But that would be nothing compared to what the Palestinians go through. We hear about dogs being trained to rape Palestinians. I saw some of those dogs. At one point in time in Ashdod, one of these dogs was deliberately let loose on one of my comrades. He pounced on him and took a chunk of flesh out of his cheeks. before the dog was restrained. And just like when I asked for a paracetamol and I was given nothing, this guy asked for antiseptic. We met with an Israeli doctor inside the prison. When you first went to prison, you go through all these routines. And I met with a doctor, and I requested for paracetamol. Nothing was given. This fellow requested for some antiseptic to wipe his wound. Nothing was given. So cases of, I do not want to go into details. I'm not the person to talk about on behalf of the people who have experienced sexual violence in the hands of the abductors. But there were 12 cases only on my ship, detention ship. Elsewhere, I do not know how many. For myself, I can say, every time I was stripped naked, I could hear them giggle and laugh, especially when they were talking Arabic, because I understand Arabic, about, at me after being stripped naked. On 2 occasions, they were slapping me while I was in without anything on my body. So they take pleasure in doing this, and there is no doubt of the level of sexual violence that's used as a tool to propagate their genocidal agenda and their genocidal nature.
In the 3 minutes video clip you recorded before your flight left at the Istanbul airport, you talk about your Muslim identity, your faith, and your skin as factors that the Israeli prison guards and the Israeli soldiers consider special. And why do you say that?
Because at every station, they ask me that. Because you move from one station to another, and they would look at your passport, and they would say, Canada, Ahmed, Anta Muslim, Anta Arab, Kalb. They would say these words. And I can understand because
What
I
does
can
kelp
speak.
mean?
Kalb is dog.
Oh,
Huh?
so Israeli, the prison guards call you Muslim dog.
Absolutely. And then they will put your head down, the neck, and then kick you and move you forward. So this was a repeated routine. Kalb, sharmuta is pussy and ass, and all these swear words they would use for a Muslim Canadian with the last name Ahmed. And I would say, no Arabic. I pretended I don't speak Arabic. And at one point in time, I got so sick and tired because they keep asking, where are you born? And I just would not reply. And at one point in time, I'm like, je suis français. Because for them, it was very important. And where are your parents born? Where are you born? Where are your parents born? Because they can see, yeah, you're a brown guy. Last name Ahmed. Yeah, you're a Muslim. One of them even asked me, what is your religion? I'm like, yes, Islam. So this takes them, it takes them as though very much the poor. And evidently, very practically, I could see, you hear about this narrative of Israel being the only democracy, all inclusive. You've got Muslim, Arab, Israelis, who have got their rights, yada, yada, yada. Even serving in the Israeli occupation forces, they talk about it. But this lie was right in front of me. They couldn't digest the fact that there is a Muslim Canadian with last name Ahmed.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, can you talk about your own personal background? Like I understand, like your parents were expelled violently in the very first wave of genocidal assault on Rohingya community in 1978. And can you tell us about your Rohingya background and why you do this human rights work?
My parents were expelled in 1978 Nagamin, Operation Nagamin. I was born subsequently in Chittagong. I was amongst the very lucky. My parents are amongst the very lucky ones because they didn't get stopped and in prison. I would use the word prison now in the refugee camps, which many of my colleagues that I work with today in the refugee camps, if some of them have not even seen outside the camps. or born, brought up after 90s. Um, my parents' villages, my father's villages outside of Sitwe, Akyab is what I call uh, Nazirfara, Zoldahana, Felishan, all these villages, they are all exterminated. And many of my distant relatives, including my grandma's sister, who's still surviving, live in the IDP camps of outside of Sitwe. Yeah. Uh, they're in Sakifara, and I talk to them every now and then. I do this because this is who I am. It is in my origin, it's in my blood. And the Palestinian struggle is very akin to the Rohingya struggle. If not, I learned from the Palestinian struggle. The Palestinians are teaching all of the world on what human rights is, what it means to fight back imperialism, colonialism, and occupying power. And the Rohingya, my people, are doing the same, but not to the extent that we should be doing. There is so much more to learn, and I hope to bring that learning into our own struggle, just like all other people need to learn and bring it to their own struggle. The Palestinians are teaching, the Gazans are teaching the rest of the world.
Yeah. So, any final thought to the international human rights activist community and or to your own Rohingya people?
To the international human rights community, or the international community, I would say, you cannot break the will of the people. You can break our bones. You can put us down. You can spit on us. You can put us in prisons. You can kill us. There were some of my comrades who were shot. One of them shot point blank. And I can't imagine what our fellow Palestinian brothers and sisters go through, especially after this death penalty that the Knesset was celebrating. I saw writings on prison cells from our fellow Palestinians who may not have survived afterwards. You may have killed scores of them, but you do not break their will. You do not break the idea of freedom. You can never break the idea of freedom. Colonialism will never win, and the occupying power will have to fall, just like every occupying power had to fall in history. To my brothers and sisters in Arakan, in Myanmar, and especially my brothers and sisters from my community, my Rohingya brothers and sisters, we need to know that we have to fight, that we have to stand up, that we have to be strong and be able to carry our own struggle, not be puppets and not be dependent on the international media and politicians and try and have this victimhood mentality that we have had for the last 10 years at least, ever since 2017 at least, that I have known my activism comrades. Over with this victim mentality, that we need to get this help, we need to make this interview and that interview and go into, this Geneva and that Geneva and this CNN and this BBC and they are the saviors. No, you have to stand up for yourselves like our fellow Palestinian brothers and sisters. You have to build your own resistance. You have to be strong, proud, and stand up for your rights, just like how your Islam teaches you to do so, how your own faith teaches you to do so. And until we do that, we will not have a liberation movement that will be successful.